Sustainability is a beautiful word, especially when it is printed with an exclusive font on fine paper. Who wouldn't love sustainability? But does sustainability actually mean something? Welcome to the Sustainability Trends in Business course, and this time we will talk about what sustainability is about. We will define some basic sustainability terminology so that we would have common language. I asked, does sustainability mean anything? Words mean whatever meaning we give them. So the definition is important. It is not a well-defined term. If you take Google or if you take scientific literature, you will notice that different authors use sustainability for different things, and then we have terms such as responsibility, which are often used interchangeably with sustainability, and sometimes a big difference is made between the two. So we don't really know what sustainability is, and that is why I need to use some time here defining what I mean by sustainability. And this unfortunately applies to some of the other terms we are going to use throughout this course. This is my definition. Sustainability. I defined it pretty much through its original root, that is the Latin verb sustinere, which means to hold up, to maintain, to keep as is. And I think that is pretty much what sustainability is about in business. So a sustainable business is something that is future-proof, that will maintain, that will exist in the future. And that means that the business has to be aligned with the future physical, that is natural, and social environment. And a very important thing in business sustainability is actually financial sustainability or profitability. This may sound harsh, but the point here is that if you have a business that is doing something good for the world and is extremely sustainable but is not financially sustainable, it will go belly up. It won't be anymore. It will be pushing daisies. It will be an ex-business. It won't be there to do anything. It'll go bankrupt. So financial sustainability is a very important part of business sustainability. Why do I say that businesses are needed to make the world a better place, or actually they are needed to get into the sustainable future or to a good future? Well, I have found three paths to the future, only three. One of them is the path we have taken this far and the path we are excellent at taking. In French, everything sounds much better, so let's say it in French. It's laissez-faire. So just sit on our hands, don't do anything. And that's what we've been doing for decades regarding sustainability. And it's not going to go into the right direction. It will head up into a disaster. In other lectures, I will outline the magnitude of the disaster, but here I think the adjectives are enough. It will be a huge problem if we don't do anything. So that's out of question. Then there is another path. If you look at what we have, just have a look into our wardrobe. What kind of clothes we have? Do we need everything? Are they all there for the purpose of clothes, which is protecting us from the environment? No, they aren't. They have a lot of other functions. They are just sort of conveying a message, portraying fashion and whatever. So we could toss maybe 90% of what we have away. And the same applies to, do we drive cars? I do sometimes, yes, I admit. But if I walked, that would be more sustainable, wouldn't it? Eating. We all know that we shouldn't eat that much meat because not eating meat would be healthier. Vegetable-based diet would be more healthy. We would live longer and healthier. So actually tossing that part of our material sort of well-being away would make us better off. All this gives the rise to the idea of radical degrowth. Let's think how we could adjust our economic system or turn it upside down or whatever so that we wouldn't be talking about growth, so that we would be talking about what we need instead of what we want. fair enough, and I give merit to this idea. It's a great idea, and we will have to pick parts of that in any case. However, I don't think radical degrowth is going to happen. And why do I think that way? The problem is democracy. Because if you look at politicians, if you look at MPs, how do you get re-elected or elected in the first place? It's not by promising the radical degrowth to your voters. Yes, you can get elected by promising misery to the voters of other people. That's a good strategy. But promising misery to your own voters doesn't fly. And also, this is us in the world, this prosperous, wealthy West. We have a lot. But if we go and tell the global South people that, no, you shouldn't actually improve your standard of living because we have decided that it's going to be radical degrowth. Doesn't that sound fun? Oh, you don't think so? Think of 1.4 billion Indians to whom we're telling them that, yeah, it's good as it is, and please don't develop anything, at least anything that we use any resources. So I don't think we can do radical degrowth. It might be a great idea, yes, but not a feasible one. So there is a third path, and the third path is through innovation and commercialization of innovations. And when I talk about innovations, I'm not talking only about technological innovations. Yes, as a tech nerd, I love technology and I love technological innovations, but the point here is that social innovations are important. For example, if you look at food, what prevents us from eating less meat and eating more plant-based products? Well, because we are accustomed to eating meat. So we need to have social innovations to change our habits. And social innovations are important also in creating business. But yes, this is what I believe is the only path, and this is what this course is about. Business through innovation. But where would one find sustainable business? What characterizes sustainable business? How to start looking for what? It's not easy, but we can look at some of the boundaries we have. First of all, the outermost boundary we have in everything is laws of physics. We can't surpass laws of physics. Well, this sounds obvious, but there have been a lot of sort of sustainable, especially sustainable energy innovations that have actually tried to violate the laws of physics, and that doesn't fly. Then we have the natural boundaries. The boundaries set by the environment we are living in, sort of the Earth or the planetary boundaries. But just to give you an example, if I had a great sustainable business idea which is based on drones that fly when the gravity is 1/2 of what we have on the Earth, they won't fly because we can't change the gravity. So that is something, it's not a law of physics. There can be a planet where that would work, but it will not work in our own environment. And then we have the limits of engineering. Limits of engineering is how close to the natural boundaries or the planetary boundaries we can actually get. To give you an example, if you think of a business that is based on using large flying lizards, it doesn't sound that good because we don't have any large flying lizards, but actually we're not violating the natural boundaries because there have been such creatures 65 million years ago. So they are not violating any of the principles of whatever we are living in this environment, but we just don't have them. And if we spend 100 years putting a lot of resources into creating them, I'm quite convinced that we could recreate them. Okay, we have airplanes, so we don't need the lizards, but still. So engineering is pushing the boundaries. Another example is fusion power. Fusion power would be a game changer in the energy sector, right? But we don't have fusion power. We know it won't violate the laws of physics, and we don't know of any natural boundaries that would violate, but it's just a darn difficult problem to solve, and we are spending a lot of money and time and effort to solve it, and probably we are going to solve it. And business-wise, this is actually important, because if you look at the boundaries of the engineering part of it, they are moving, they are expanding, they are going outwards. And if you can place your business at the boundary in a place where it's just feasible, or it will be good next year, you might be first in some field, and that could be good business. But okay, it's not enough that we can do something by engineering. We need to be able to create business, and one of the prerequisites for business is that something solves a problem. That's another boundary. So it needs to solve a problem. Of course, we can figure out a lot of things that would solve a problem but are not within engineering or natural boundaries or the laws of physics, but let's not look for them there, because now we have to find problems that we can solve within the boundaries. And then, furthermore, things that people set, social and legal boundaries or acceptance. And now social and legal acceptance are not the same thing. There are things that are socially acceptable but not legally acceptable, a lot of them. One example could be sharing economy and Uber. Uber rides were illegal in most places 10 years ago, and now they are not that illegal in many places because the legislation has changed, because they became socially acceptable. And the other way around, there are things that are legally acceptable but not socially acceptable. And just to give you an idea of those, think of quick loans. You know, those get a loan without any guarantees for 20% interest rate for a month, and then we'll rip you off, sort of things. And these things are changing, both the social acceptance. Some things that were socially acceptable in the past are not socially acceptable now, and they are different things in different parts of the world, so this is not a global thing, and the same applies with legislation. So the legal part is also moving, and you have to be aware of those. And you'd better create business which is both socially and legally acceptable, or at least will be, both of them. And then, finally, profitability. Your business must be profitable. And profitability depends on very, very many different factors. A lot of asset costs like labor cost or material cost or whatever, and they change. They may change very fast, and all these transitions we are living in will change. And that also gives a sort of a fruitful place to look for a good new business if you understand that some asset costs are going to change, so that something that is not profitable today will be profitable tomorrow. Then creating that kind of business is a good idea, and of course the vice versa. Now, I know this diagram does not answer your question, where and what kind of business ideas to look for, but at least it sort of answers the questions what kind of business ideas not to look for. But let's get from business to science. Let's talk about sustainability science. Sustainability science is sort of a new thing, but you hear that term more and more often. One of the definitions I have been able to find is that it brings together scholarship and practice, global and local perspectives from north and south, and disciplines across the natural and social sciences, engineering and medicine. Whoa, that's what I would call pretty much everything. It's very inclusive, yes, but it's inclusive and pretty much everything for a good reason, because sustainability impacts almost everything we are going to do in business in the future. Very often the sustainability science field is divided into three different areas, or three different perspectives, viewpoints: environmental, human and engineered systems. These are three different views. And the environmental one is about ecology, biology, geosciences, climate. Sort of the as it says, the environmental part, the natural science part of it. Human aspects take social sciences, medicine, which is also about human, economics, a human-made system, and also philosophy, which is not to be forgotten, especially ethics. And then we have the engineered, which is everything we as humans have been able to do. Engineering usually brings to mind things like mobile phones or computers, locomotives, whatever. But actually a lot of what we have is engineered. Our clothes are pieces of engineering. So engineering means that something that doesn't come directly from the nature, and that's engineered systems. And this is more sort of the limiting thing that defines what we can do, as was in the previous diagram as well. Well, my subjective view, and this is purely subjective, into sustainability science, that it is important, but it's not well defined at all. It's an ill-defined domain, and it usually concerns environmental questions. There are other aspects. There is social sustainability as well, but sustainability science is usually about environmental sustainability, despite it having different perspectives from the human side as well. The origins of sustainability science are in natural science, so it's sort of the environmental part. And then we have had more and more of the social part, of the human part, into the mix. And interesting things have happened. There is discussion about whether we should actually toss the environmental part out of it, or make it less important and emphasize the human part. Well, from my perspective, again, that sounds stupid because, again, the laws of physics and so on. So let's not forget about science. Natural science is very important. Natural science doesn't answer the human questions, but it's important to keep in there. Another term you might encounter is strong and weak sustainability. And they have very specific meaning. Strong sustainability means that the natural capital is something that cannot be interchanged with human capital. It means that whatever we do that changes the nature is something that we cannot compensate for it at all. So if we take some mineral out of the ground, it's out of the ground forever, and we have actually changed the system in a way that we can compensate for. And the idea is quite sound, because then, of course, you can think that we can't just, bring a cartload of money to Mother Nature and say that, oh, sorry, we just touched you, but here is your compensation. This is the view of strong sustainability, no interchangeability. And weak sustainability, well, not very surprisingly, says that yes, we can touch the nature, we can reduce the natural capital, as long as the human capital, whatever it is, money or learning or well-being, increases more than the impact of violating or making a violent act towards Mother Nature. So this is a more pragmatic view. And now it's quite simple to see that neither of these views, strong or weak, leads to a very good result. Strong sustainability will lead to the conclusion that the humankind should sort of disappear, or at least go 100,000 years back in time and forget all engineering, because engineering is here the curse word. And quite obviously we can't do it. And then weak sustainability sort of makes everything relative. It says that yeah, you can do whatever, and you can pollute the atmosphere as much as you want, as long as it increases the human capital, which is not well defined. And quite obviously that gives you a very good basis for a lot of greenwashing and claiming that yes, but this and this and this is more important than the values of nature. My view, and consequently the view of this course, is that we should aim towards strong sustainability. We should minimize the damage we cause, but we must be pragmatic and understand that getting to zero is not possible, will not be possible, and we have to live with the consequences and understand the consequences. And please note, if we take the three perspectives, human, engineered and environmental, they are not in any specific order. They cannot be replaced by another, and all of them are required. So one cannot say that this is, for example, the environmental is the right way of looking at this. You have to apply all three perspectives. Well, then we had strong and weak sustainability. Then we have hard sustainability. And hard sustainability usually means the environmental side, because it's based on sort of hard sciences, it's based on natural sciences, it's not that soft human side of things. And that includes laws of physics, ecology, biology, as discussed before. And this has a grain of truth in it, because there is no discussion or dialogue between humans and natural environment. The communication is completely unidirectional. It's something that the nature around us tells that it is this way and we have to live according to that. We don't negotiate with nature. So yes, it is hard in that sense. But then when we come to business, it's easy to think, by the way, very few people use the word Per, soft sustainability for some reason, which is a bit odd because we have hard sustainability. Anyway, we usually think that hard is difficult because the exam was hard, meaning it was difficult. It's a lingual thing. But actually here, hard and difficult are a bit different things. When I look at it from the business perspective, I would actually challenge the view of saying that hard sustainability is the difficult part. I'd say that it's the easy part. Now let's get back to the boundaries we have. Laws of physics, well, that's hard sustainability, but it's very easy because we know the laws of physics. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have social and legal acceptance, we have profitability, which don't have very many hard rules, which are just sort of agreements between people or result from agreements between people, and they are actually very difficult, even though they are not hard sustainability. I think it's enough of confusing people with terminology. Later we will return to the topic and have a look at things like ESG and sustainability impact. See you next time.